feel like a faithless lover today. How would I know what a faithless lover feels like? Have I ever been a faithless lover? Well, let's not go into that today, but in fact, I don't even know why I brought it up, really. But the reason I feel that way is because of this. My dear Door Westbury milling machine, which I did a rebuild on a few years ago and have been using ever since here in my British workshop. I have decided to put into temporary rehab. I'm going to take it down, take it apart, take it to my place in France, and in due course do some work in it. The reason I'm doing this is because, and there are various issues with it. First of all, the bearings. It has the original ball races in, and to be honest, I think they're pretty short. There's some serious and alarming vertical play in the spindle which is intermittent, and a ball race which looks like it's coming apart. So one job that I will do in this mill eventually is to replace that with tapered roller bearings. The second issue is the motor. This is the original motor, English Electric, very nice old motor, but when you put any torque on at all, it actually pours out smoke and sparks terribly on the inside of the motor, and the whole workshop is filled with acrid smoke. Clearly not an ideal situation. So this motor's been replaced, and I think it needs to be replaced, and I think that rather than try to replace it like for like, I'm just going to sort of not regard this machine so much as a monument, as a practical machine, and I might replace it with a small three-phase motor to use for light milling and drilling purposes in the future. The next issue, which is common to pretty much all Door Westbury Mark I machines, I'm not sure about the Mark II, is that the spindle bore is very narrow. So you can only get a very narrow drawbar down it. I'm sorry, the figures aren't in my head at the moment. They're not complicated, but I've just not got a good head for even simple numbers. But to cut a long story short, it will only take a very narrow drawbar, which puts serious limits on the type of bigger tooling you can use. Here it's got a Morse Taper 2 to R8. Morse Taper 2 to E32 collet holder, which has been very handy. But there's a lot of things you can't do with this mill because of that narrow spindle bore and the inability to get tooling which will fit this slender drawbar. And finally, again, common to all Door Westburys, the table. Now, this is a unique table, and it's a very kind of, it's like an icon of Door Westbury mills. And the mills themselves, of course, are iconic. They're a classic piece of British home engineering history. But this table with its transverse slots, although it looks interesting, and it does, it looks pretty, apart from that chip in it, which isn't an issue. But with these slots, it doesn't matter what I want to mount on that, whether I want to clamp something to it, whether I want to put a vise on it or a rotary table, it never seems to be the right size. So although it's a very unique table, it probably isn't the most practical. I mean, other Door Westbury owners out there may beg to disagree, but I have heard one or two people say something similar. So the upshot of all that is I'm certainly not getting rid of the machine, but it's going over to my workshop in France into a clinic, as it were, to get some work done in it, where there are a lot of other jobs lined up being done as well, as you might know if you've looked at other videos on my channel. So I'm afraid my dear old Door Westbury is going to be replaced over here in my main working shop. So what am I going to replace it with? Well, there's my Centec 2A, which is in great condition, and it's over in France. But the last time I tried to crane it into my van, it just wouldn't go any which way without dismantling from its stand. You dismantle it from its stand and it becomes very difficult to transport because of its shape. And anyway, it's going to be a while before I could bring it back. So it's not going to be the Centec. It's an imported Chinese mill. Now, I know that there's a couple of people who've looked at my channel who will be horrified by this betrayal of the tradition of old British, American and European iron. And I must admit, I love old iron, I really do. I've got several milling machines that I don't need, and a couple of lathes that I don't need because of my love of it. But the truth of the matter is, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. And I might find this is a great machine, I might find that it's not so great, but I have work that I want to be getting on with, and doing up the door Westbury or waiting to bring the Centec over from France didn't really appeal to me. So I thought I would just give myself a break and go for something that's got a few up-to-date kind of conveniences. I'm not going to try to review this machine. I haven't even used it. I've just set it up on the table bench with the kind help of my neighbour, plugged it in and tried it out running. There is a full kind of breakdown of the machine on YouTube by a guy whose name I can't quite remember, but I'll have a link to his channel in the description, and you'll be able to see it there. So I'm not going to do that, but I will tell you what things I think I'm going to like about this machine so far. It's a Sieg X 2.7, and actually it's a 2.7L because it's the long table version, which is very nice. I'm not going to get into numbers, lengths, measurements or anything like that. You can get that information online if you're interested to do that. What I think I'm going to like about it, well, for a start, inside here there's a direct belt drive with variable speed control. Some of the smaller Sieg machines have plastic gears, and I had one once and I didn't like it at all, especially when the plastic gears stripped under load. Too much load admittedly, but even so, I do not like that. And because of this, the belt drive, it runs sweetly and smoothly and also very quietly, so I like that. This digital controller, well, I always like analog style controls really, but I think it's simple and straightforward enough and clear, and everything comes up on the display telling you where you're at and everything if you need that. What else am I going to like about it? Well, tapping mode might be fun once I get used to it. A bit scared of it at the minute, I can just see taps breaking all over the shop, but once you get used to it, probably it's quite a handy feature. I like the overall size of it. I like the fact that the hand wheels, although they look like plastic, are actually black painted aluminium. Might be nice to take that black paint off at some point and shine them up. I'll wait till it starts to look scabby and chipped before I do that. I particularly like the table locks on on both axes, and the lock on the Z-axis as well. You can see it there. There are all these little levers, so no more fiddling about with Allen keys or spanners and such like. There's also one screw for adjusting the jib strip, which I haven't even touched yet, but it strikes me as being a very nice feature rather than fiddling about with tiny little nuts. So these are all nice design features on this machine. Oh, I also like the fact it's got a built-in digital height gauge. That's one less axis you have to bother about putting a DRO on if that's what you want to do. So let's just start it up and I'll give you a sense of it running. So there it's crawling around at 40 RPM, and just pressing the speed increase button, it's basically taking it up to 2000, and it's pretty quiet. It's very quiet actually. I'm liking this. The one thing that I don't like about it is the same thing that everybody who buys this mill hates, which is this horrible big plastic chuck guard that is interlocked with the power supply, so that when you open it, the motor switches off. It's ridiculous. I mean, look at that. There's a drill chuck in there just now, but that's about 10 centimetres below the height of the bottom end of the spindle. So, that's going to get in the way of everything. So that's coming off. It's easy enough to tweak these things so that you just leave the interlock switch on the on position. Health and safety be damned, you have to be able to use the thing. Don't like this nanny state mentality. But there it is. I think overall this is going to be a nice machine. as long as it doesn't break down, as long as the circuit boards don't blow out in the controller, as long as the motor doesn't burn out. I've got a thing with electric motors, they seem to fail around me all the time. I hope that doesn't happen anytime soon. But as long as it does what it says it's going to do, I think it's going to be a nice, convenient upgrade to my shop. Oh, the other thing that I should have mentioned is, and one of the main reasons, one of the important reasons, as I said earlier, is that the R8 spindle on this is going to take a lot of tooling that I can't use with the door Westbury, so I'm going to be able to use like a face mill, which I've also just bought, and various other things, and the table's going to allow me much more freedom to use nice things like this vise and this nice old British indexing head that I bought at a model engineering exhibition. And another thing I like is the fact that the head is fixed and the column is fixed, and there's no swivel, rotary movement in this head at all. It's a straight up and down, and as long as this thing's in proper tram, which it should be, but I will check at some point, there shouldn't be ever any issue with it going out of alignment. And I'll be more than happy to use tilting vices and things like little adjustable tilting T-slot tables bolted onto the main table, because there's enough spindle height there for that, as long as you're not doing huge work. So to me, this has all the qualities of a machine that should be easy and straightforward to use, and actually let me get on with some work, which is what I want to do. And now bells and whistles, all also straight out of their boxes today. First off, a nice clamping set, standard issue, but I was very pleased when it came out of its packaging and I saw that the holder was this nice grey colour instead of that garish bright blue that some of them are. R8 ER32 collet holder and its C-spanner. That will be my standard system because I've already got the ER32 collets for another mill that I have. And R8 to MT2 converter sleeve so that I can use some of my MT2 tooling in the mill. A little selection of edge finders, centre finders, wigglers, that should keep me going. And this I'm excited about. This is a face mill from, with again R8, face mill from banggood.com with blue nano cutters. I bought this on the recommendation of John, the wonderful John on his Double Boost YouTube channel, who gave it a very favourable review. And most exciting of all, a DRO with glass scales. I've only bought two linear scales for the X and Y axes because the mill already has its own DRO on the vertical axis. Now there might be all sorts of good reasons why I should also have a glass scale for the Z axis. There may not. I'm only going to find out through experience and trial, but I think this will give me a good start. And all in all, this little lot should really help me up my game as a machinist, I think, because hitherto I've really been a bit intuitive. I've made things that, for aesthetic reasons like candlesticks and such like, and other bits and pieces, but things that aren't critical in dimension, and done a lot of stuff by eye. But I'm getting interested in live steam nowadays, so can't do that anymore. So measuring is going to become a new step forward for me. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers. I'll see you later.